We are recording live from the manufacturing lab in the Acopian Engineering Center here at Lafayette College in Easton, Pennsylvania. A huge shout out to my employer for affording us the time and place to do this recording for you. I am your host, Robert Layng. The editors have decided that to come up with the name The Daily Grind as a double entente to both coffee and the machining trade. If you have a high school age student or you know someone that does and they're looking for a college to go, Lafayette College boasts an unparalleled engineering curriculum in all of its departments. So the machine shop behind me is actually used by the mechanical engineers in their sophomore year mostly to do a little small power transmission gearbox to show them all the different capabilities and limitations of our shop. And then they use all that information to go and design a little dragster as their final exam, the practical final exam for the course, which they race against their teammates at the end of the semester. We offer the one thing that not really any of our competing colleges offer, and it's that hands-on experience. You'll be with myself or one of my coworkers right at these machines you see behind me, making the parts that you've designed. We also have a very, very intense curriculum that helps you interact with a shop as an engineer or an outside vendor. We also pride ourselves in teaching the students to design for manufacturability and to keep it very simple. We reinforce the thought of you can draw just about anything on a beer napkin, but can you go make it? I wanted to get people to change the perception around manufacturing being a dark, dirty, underpaid field. Nothing could be further from the truth. I'd like to help change that perception. If you look behind me in the shop that we're in, the Acopian Engineering Center just invested a lot of money to bring LEDs into all of the overhead lighting. It's like a surgical suite in here. I've seen things I never saw before. If you also look, I'll get out of the way. The shop is in very good shape, very well kept and very clean. My coworkers and I are almost militant about cleaning up any mess we make right after we do the job. I'm going to be a realist and say that while a lot of shops that are trying to turn a profit put the cleanliness toward the end of their priority list, it's the exception and not the rule. I've worked at one or two shops where you were making chips all day. I had piles of chips up past my ankles, and if you stopped to shovel chips or clean off your machine, you were written up for wasting time. But like I said, that is the exception and not the rule. It is considered a non-value added task, but I digress. I'd like to give you a big example of how the trades are very clean, bright, and very well paid. I had a batch of students in 2015 come back from studying abroad for a semester in Florence, Italy. So you can imagine I was already green with envy when I heard that. What turned that envy into absolute angry jealousy was they were told they were given the opportunity to tour Ferrari's manufacturing plant where they make parts for the Formula One cars. It took every single muscle in my body not to swat at them out of pure jealousy. Those students had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. They also told me that every single person on the floor that they talked to, whether it be a machinist, an operator, maintenance mechanic, or group leader, they said they were all very well paid and had no complaints. They probably have a lot of stress or expectations put upon them, but they seem to be just fine from what the students tell me. Now, these are only a few examples to, for lack of a better pun, shed a light on how the stigma is a gross misconception. I'd also like to talk about the widening skills gap and what could be done to shrink it. I've long been an advocate of trade schools, and I'm sure you've seen those schools advertised on TV or the radio, what have you, that boast the ability to learn a trade, get to work, make money sooner, and have very little to no debt. I am an advocate and a fan of these. I think one of them is UTI, but this would be a good place as any to plug my own alma mater, Penn College in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. They did a fantastic job of preparing me for the trades, or for the field. To give you a little backstory, when I was about 14, I had started working for my father's shop. I did basic things, filing, deburring, sweeping up, just to get my foot in the door and learn. And then as I moved up, I would work for him over the summers during my school years. And it was decided that, I made the decision, I wanted to go into this trade. I was enamored by taking a piece of metal or whatever and making something out of it, whether it be plastic, metal, anything. Just to be able to make something from nothing was excellent to me. It's what hooked me. On the other side of that, it was right around the time that every single position on the planet, even down to burger flippers or starting positions, required a piece of paper saying you went to school. So that kind of put the kibosh on me going right into the working force unless I knew somebody. So I had started considering trade schools, and there was one right near home in Williamsport, Penn College, that had a tagline above there, right below their name, Penn College of Technology. It said degrees that work, and their sales pitch was a 95+% placement rate into a job soon after you graduate, and they lived up to that for sure. Now, before that, I had gone to a vocational school that my high school had partnered with. They would send us to the vocational school in the morning from 8 till noon, and then we would begrudgingly get back on the bus to go to our general education classes. I completely realized that a lot of them, not all of them, a lot of them were very important and necessary. But that's a whole can of worms for another show one day. So we would do our vocational school in the morning, and then back to the hometown school in the afternoon. I did that for my junior and senior years. And what that did for me was I did very well there. I excelled, and it got me advanced placement into Penn College's machine shop courses. I went for the toolmaking degree, so I got to skip the first semester of basic machining as part of my advanced placement. I didn't have to go through that again, which I'm very thankful for. Now, as for the reputation of Penn College and the advocacy of trade schools, I was in the beginning of my final semester, my fourth semester, and the college hosted a trade fair or a career fair to start getting your name out and start looking for work. So I had gone in, I had put my applications in, I had left my resume with probably a dozen employers. I got a couple of callbacks, and rather quickly. So I had done my interviews. I went to a place in New York, Pennsylvania, that did hydroelectric power, and the machines were the size of this room. They were gigantic, and it was overwhelming, to say the least. I had interviewed at a place in upstate New York, and they didn't call me back for a second interview, sadly. But time went on. I was still looking for work, and fast forward to like 2 weeks before I graduated college, and a scout for the place I ended up working for was there, looking for talent. And I had made mention to him that I was looking for work, and he had said that there was an opening in their repair machine shop for a machinist, and I was immediately hooked. So I spoke with him for a while, and he had said to reach out, formally put in an application, send the resume, so I did, and I waited for a little while. Got kind of nervous, but I finally got a call back for an interview soon after I graduated, and went through the interview, got a nice tour of the shop, and was told to go for a drug test, so I thought that was a great sign. And a couple days later, I got my offer letter, and I accepted. I worked for them for 1.5 years until I found the job here at the college. And I have, aside from a small little change in employment a couple of years ago, I have been here for just about 15 years. This place is a great place to work. It is, it is like a second home. I will say, the compensation part of it. So I would like to speak to the compensation part of this field before we go. When I mentioned the students touring the Ferrari plant, they had mentioned that they were very well compensated. The way they do things in Europe is different here in the States, and I won't get into that debate. But when I started that job at Osram, Sylvania, would it be, 17 years ago? My goodness. I was offered $20 an hour, and before everybody has a collective mental implosion. Where I grew up was a very affordable place to live. That was excellent pay, considering. And to give you an idea, my parents had, I forget the size of their house, but they had almost 10 acres of property. They have 10 acres of property and a nice 2-floor house. And all-inclusive, their tax bill, I think, is still under, in 2025, I think their inclusive tax bill is under $2,000 a year. So it's a very affordable place to live, and so the pay was very commensurate for the area. They had told me that they would put me at $21.50 an hour for my shift differential when my training was complete and I went in second shift. I had worked there, like I said, for a year and a half, getting my typical raises, and then found the job here at the college, which was a culture shock for me at first because of the city living versus very rural and the cost of living. But that, again, another debate for another day. Now, this is all to say that these skilled trades, all of them, and I am an advocate for all of them, whether you be a carpenter, a machinist, toolmaker, plumber, electrician, please, if you don't know what you want to do with your life, go to a trade school. The return on investment is far away and beyond what some bachelor's degrees can get you, and you will get right to work. Now, I have a task for all the industry leaders watching and listening. If you would like to help end the stigma around manufacturing, there are a few things you can do. I realize there are a lot of trade secrets in some shops, so this is a hit or miss option. But if you were to bring in young people that are going or considering the trade, bring them in, show them what you have to offer, show them what you do, and show them your facility to help change that perception. Another thing to bridge or eliminate that skills gap would be to invest in a local trade school. If you have a vocational school that's looking for money or looking to expand, consider donating to that to help bring the next generation up to speed and help them get to where they need to be. Over the weekend, I had the excellent opportunity to talk with a Mr. Terry Iverson, who leads the Champion Now program. From what I understand, he had just spent a whole lot of time with that group, the Titans of CNC Machining. Those guys and gals are a step above anything I've ever seen. They're great. Mr. Terry Iverson runs Champion Now. He has a traveling camp that exposes youngsters to the and the up-and-coming generation to the machine trades and the manufacturing trades, and how it can be very beneficial for them. So if you want to go the route of no physical investment, if you were to reach out to Mr. Iverson and see what you can do for him, that would be very helpful. Like I said, I would just like to advocate for getting more people into the trade, young blood into the trade, so it doesn't die off. I'd like to offer maybe what Lafayette does, or part of what Lafayette does, to help the next generation of engineers be ready to work with machinists and bring things to life. That little gearbox I mentioned, that is a 4-week program that the students come in, we lay out everything in front of them, all the pre-made parts, all the expectations we have of them. We teach them basic welding, we teach them to deck off the bottom of the part to get rid of the weld distortion. We have them locate and drill precise journal holes for the two prop shafts. Speaking of the prop shafts, we give them pre-cut parts. One has a keyway in it, one has a flat for a screw. They learn to cut the E-clip grooves. They machine one end into a square on the output shaft so they can drive a flywheel. The flywheel starts with a round hole in the middle. They learn how to broach a square hole and drill and tap new threads. We give them a plastic gear that we make in the one end of the shop, and they learn to finish it by reaming the hole out and chasing the threads that are in there, because the injection mold makes the threads. And we also, we allow them to sandblast and paint so they can have a custom paint job. And, the big one, the most time-consuming part is when they make the brass input gear. So the smaller gear, the brass gear, they get a piece of stock brass and they turn the two diameters, they turn the gear tooth diameter and the hub diameter. They drill and ream the hole, they part it off, and they cut it to length before they go and actually cut the 17 gear teeth in it and then broach a keyway. So that's the most time-consuming part of the entire process, but it really gets them involved. It gets them, doing exactly what's on the piece of paper, so they learn what it takes to make something that's been designed. Then we kick them out for a couple weeks so they can design all the parts for a little dragster. I liken it to the old soapbox derby that Boy Scouts would do. This is motor powered, not gravity, so there's a little bit of difference, of course. But they design the axles, they design the powertrain, they determine if they want to use a belt drive, a ribbon drive, whatever or direct gear drive. They will design the frame that holds everything together. And I don't know if you can see it, but there is a small water jet that a lot of the students use to make their frames. It is a very intensive course, and it is also one of the most fun that myself and my coworkers have with the students. We like to really get them ramped up and excited for being in the shop and getting a final product. So that is, I think, a big boost. Now, we're not necessarily a trade school teaching them to replace us as machinists. We want them to learn that, again, like I told you earlier, you can put anything, scribble anything onto a bar napkin, but can you make it? And that's the big question we ask them when they come in. I'm sure you've seen some of the other schools. Like, I believe there's Thaddeus Stevens in the Lancaster area. There is UTI that I've mentioned. And this is probably my not wanting to know or not knowing, but I'm not aware of a whole lot of other trade schools, at least on the East Coast. But if you're not sure what you want to do with your life, but you want to make money and you want to get to work, a trade school is the way to go. Or if you'd like to become a mechanical engineer and have the added bonus of hands-on experience and the edge over any of your competitors or any of our competitor schools, look at Lafayette. So our tagline is the French phrase "Cœur non," or "Cœur non," and it translates to "Why not?" And that is something we embody here. We let the students come up with an idea and we kind of go, "Why not?" Like I said, my task for all of you out in the industry is, what could you possibly do? I know I really am asking a lot, or it's easy for me to sit behind a microphone and a camera to say to you, what would you do? But what could you, or what would you be willing to do to help shrink or eliminate that existential problem of the skills gap? I know if I had more money than anything, what I would do. But another thing for you to look at is Mr. Harry Moser has the reshoring initiative to bring manufacturing back here to the States. I would advise you go check him out and see what he has to offer. But the big one, like I said, is Mr. Iverson's Champion Now, or Camp Champ. If you could please give that a look or reach out, see what you can do for him to help get people in the trade, or like I said at the beginning, I want to squash that stigma that this is a dark, dingy, dirty, underpaid field. Nothing could be further from the truth. There are always exceptions, but those are exceptions and not the rule. I'd like to wind down the show today with the option that if you have LinkedIn, please find me. I'd like to hear what you have to offer. What would you do? What do you have to say? This is not just me pontificating. I would really like to hear what the audience has to say. I will have some guests in my upcoming shows, so you won't have to just look at me all day. Now, one more thing before we wind down the show for the day is, for those of you that have a long-time following of Cutting Tool Engineering, you may be familiar with the other show, Bourbon with the Editor, with editor Dennis Spaeth. I hope I pronounced that right. That is on at 6 p.m. Central Time. Please be sure to tune in. Now, tonight's episode is the precision behind scientific cutting tools, a family-built legacy powering modern machining. From what I'm reading, they'll discuss the roots of the craft, along with the technologies that elevate their porting tools, thread mills, and custom solutions. It's looking to be a great show. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in today. Please be sure to tune in next week, same time, same place. Now, next week I'll be discussing design software. What one do you use? What one do you prefer? What are the pros and cons of each one? I've taken some time to interview users of both the big two, or the big competitors, I guess you call them. Another thing I hear in the hallowed halls of engineering here is the debate between Autodesk and SolidWorks. And I'd like to give you a little heads up, is I got a lot of great responses, and we're looking forward to sharing them with you next week. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Again, if you have LinkedIn, or if you can find my contact information from one of my articles, please reach out to me. Tell me what you feel. Tell me what you think. Even if it's not just Autodesk or SolidWorks, if you have one that you think is superior, I'd love to hear what you have to say. I would be glad to quote you in my next show. I'll sign off today with my tagline of, I hope the only daily grind you have is the coffee in your mug. Again, I thank you for listening. I hope to see you guys next week.